this is my review of Assassination Classroom. Okay, so in this episode, Class 3E is finally able to pull off their assassination attempt on Korosensei, the one that they've been prepping all day for and are prepared to finally take Korosensei down once and for all. So it starts off with Korosensei walking into the room and sitting down, and they tell him to get comfortable, and they also pat him down to make sure he's not wearing a swimsuit, since that would kind of defeat the purpose of them having him in the middle of the water. But in any case, he sits down and he watches the video they prepared for him. And as the video is starting, several of the students leave, and he quickly realizes that the video is to basically keep his attention on that, so that he doesn't notice that several of the students are missing. But because of his sense of smell, he's able to tell that the two snipers are far away from him, and he already knows where they are. And as long as he keeps his attention toward to the entrance of the chapel that he's in, he's probably going to be fine. But then the video actually picks up and showcases all of his porn-related habits for an hour, which kind of causes him to become completely embarrassed and bright red. And he also points out the fact that he gave everybody popsicles to keep them quiet. So he's a little upset. Needless to say, he's a little upset about the fact that they're using his porn addiction as a weakness. This causes him to obviously go bright red. And by the time the video's over, he's emotionally spent. He has nothing left of him, and he basically just responds, "There's no really reason to kill me. I'm already emotionally dead inside." Basically, that's probably one of the best jokes that I've seen up to this point. But once the video wraps up and the seven highest scorers all gather around to take off his tentacles, he also discovers another weakness that they've exploited. High tide rolled in while he was watching the video, and now he's sitting in a pool of water. In case the snipers take off the high scorers take off the 7 tentacles that they're due, which further limits his mobility, and he can't move. And he realizes that it's going to be tricky, but he will be able to actually pull it off as long as he's paying attention. But then it's revealed that Class 3E had rented some speedboats and then pull off the walls of the chapel to basically make it an open air space. Then most of the remaining students use water-powered hoverboards to create a giant cage around the platform where he's floating, and then any students that aren't currently doing a thing, all open fire on him, not to kill him, but to keep him in one spot so that the snipers can do their job. And then the snipers make their mark, and there's a huge explosion. And obviously everybody has flown 3, and for a moment they think they killed Korosensei. But as you should know by now, Korosensei kind of comes with, it's kind of part of the name. Korosensei kind of reveals that he has one last trump card up his sleeve on the off chance that he actually is killed, or at least close to it. As it turns out, Korosensei has an absolute defense form, which basically means that it's his head in a giant crystallized ball, and he's now the size of a softball. He's basically in an invincible form, and he explains how it works. Most of his mass was converted into a crystallized structure that enabled him to basically become more or less invincible, and points out that while extremely useful and basically makes it that he's unkillable, and it does eventually wear off after a day of it being active. And on top of that, he can't move in that time, so he's basically at the mercy of whoever's around him. But he points out that the only real way to kill him at that point is to put him into space. But he's calculated it out and knows that no spacecraft is able to actually make that trip in 24 hours. So eventually he will return to his normal form while he's on a spacecraft, and he will get free, and he will be fine. So yeah, and everybody's a bit upset is understandably a little miffed at him because he kind of didn't displayed a new ability that they didn't know he had up until that point. But they realize that they're going to get him back for basically ruining their assassination attempt. So they pass him to Karma, and Karma basically just has his way with him. And up until Kurasama intervenes and puts Korosensei in a plastic bag. At which point Korosensei thanks the students for their help, and that they'll figure out a way what to do with him back at headquarters. But Korosensei remarks that that's actually a pretty bad idea, because if they decide to dispose of him at headquarters, it's just going to cause another explosion, which is going to basically level the place. So they basically have no chance of actually killing him. While everybody is understandably upset because this was their best assassination attempt yet, Korosensei tries to liven the mood, pointing out that while they didn't successfully kill him, they did come the closest to actually putting him in a weakened state, since this is his final trump card. This is if an assassination attempt is actually successful. So while they had no chance of actually killing him, he basically is now immobile and at their mercy, so they can do whatever they want with him for 24 hours. But with that, they return back to the hotel and are just too emotionally spent to do anything else. And the snipers even ask Ritsu to calculate what exactly is how much of a chance they actually had of killing him. And Ritsu points out to them that if they had aimed a little higher and done a little bit and shot a little earlier, they probably would have succeeded, because it would have been a coin flip at that point. At which point they realized that it was their own hesitation that actually cost them the kill, because as they point out, they kind of were hesitant about the fact of actually doing it, and that's what caused a slight delay and enabled Korosensei to survive. But in any case, everybody returns back to the hotel and have a quick drink before they go to bed. But Nagisa quickly realizes that something is wrong, since a lot of people seem to be a lot more out of it than they should be. And case in point, Rio walks by him as he's trying to figure out why half the class seems to be a lot more tired than they should be, and asks if she can lean on him. At which point she collapses in the middle of the floor, and that's when Nagisa realizes something is wrong. At which point Kurasama, with Korosensei in hand, barges out of the room and realizes something is wrong, and asks the hotel staff to immediately call somebody and get some help immediately, realizing that something is wrong with half of his class. But the hotel staff lady merely remarks that while they can call an ambulance or something else, the closest place they can be is at the mainland, and they kind of can't do anything about it. And at which point, Kurasama decides to go pull the government card and try to use his government influence to try and get some answers out of the hotel staff and figure out what's going on. And it's at this point where he actually gets a phone call from the unknown assailant. As it turns out, this guy, whoever he is, poisoned half of class of 3E with a man-made virus, and in a few hours they'll die, and there's nothing they can do about it unless they bring Korosensei to him with two of the proxies, the shortest boy and the shortest girl, which in this case is Kaede and Nagisa. It says that they have to bring Korosensei to him, and then maybe he'll give them the antidote. At which point he hangs up, and Kurasama is upset. Understandably so, since as he points out to himself in his internal monologue, this is kind of a problem. Somebody basically played these kids by not only knowing full well that their assassination attempt would succeed, but then to add insult to injury, then tries to take their quarry away from them, which is upsetting on a number of levels, and understandably a little bit messed up, because now a large part of the class has been incapacitated and unable to move because of this man-made virus. And understandably, everybody begins offering up solutions on what to do, pointing out that they can't just let Nagisa and Kaede walk through the front door with Korosensei. And they even know where the drop point is. It's a little hotel on the tallest mountain, which is heavily guarded, so they can't just barge in guns blazing. However, Korosensei eventually offers an alternative an alternative solution, and had Ritsu actually hack into the building's schematics to actually get a bit of a field game and actually figure out what they need to do to save the rest of this, to save half the class. As it turns out, while the building is built on top of a mountain, it's only protected by heavy security on three sides out of the 4. So the reason that is because it's built, as I said, it's built on top of the tallest mountain on the resort, and the back is toward a sheer cliff. So basically, the only way in is through the front door for the most part, but there is another entrance near where the cliff is. But since nobody is expecting anybody to climb the cliff, his security is kind of lax there. At which point, Korosensei suggests that they climb up that cliff, and that they go in the back. And sure enough, they do that. They all get into government cars, and they drive up to the back side of the cliff and begin to climb. So, yeah, first and foremost, this was the most successful assassination attempt the class has ever had, and they whiffed it. I'm not kidding, and a part of me is a little bit disappointed that Korosensei didn't die, but then again, it comes with the territory. That's kind of his name. He's kind of been established to be unkillable up to this point, so the fact that he just pulls a new ability out of his ass and that enables him to be completely fine is bullshit, but it makes sense. So, yeah, he's been established to have a lot of different abilities, so naturally one where he's able to basically turn himself into a softball for 24 hours. I kind of should have seen that coming, but also, I mean, this new assailant, he just kind of showed up and knew about the assassination attempt, and also is trying to take the assassination attempt away from them. So there's a bit of an interesting idea there. Namely that this guy knows about Class 3E, he knows about Korosensei, and he knows that they were going to have an assassination attempt on Okinawa. So whoever this guy is, he was most likely somebody directly involved with Class 3E at some point, or he most likely did his research and knows that about Korosensei and the assassination attempts. And also interesting note, this guy has scars on his face, and it's impossible that this is somebody who we haven't seen before. So it could be interesting. This is a new guy who has just showed up. We also don't hear his voice either. He has a voice filter, so we can't actually hear who he is, and most of his face is shadowed, so we can't see who he is either. All we know is that he has scars on his face. But yeah, for the most part, this is gonna be interesting, because now they have to basically break into a facility that this guy is running, get the antidote and take the guy out, and then get the antidote back to everybody else before they die. So yeah, it's gotta be a bit of an interesting ride going forward for the rest of the season. But in any case, that's my view of Assassination Classroom. What did you guys think? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below, or over on my Discord server, link in the description. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, be sure to follow me on Facebook and on Twitter in the description below. And also, be sure to check out my Patreon in the description below as well. It's only a couple bucks a month. It really helps me out, and you guys get access to original perks on my way saying thanks. So be sure to check those out in the description below as well. But in any case, thank you guys so much for watching, and also next time I will see you guys in the next video. Peace!